Have you ever thought about what it's like to wake up every day and already owe the world something? Not because you made a mistake, not because you're lazy, but just because you have less money in your pocket than the next person. It's a reality for millions, and it all comes down to this really powerful, kind of hidden force. There's this weird truth about money we don't really talk about much, and it's this. The less you have, the more it seems the world charges you just to get by. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this invisible force that actually makes it way more expensive to be poor. To really wrap our heads around how this works, let's start with a super simple story. Just picture two people walking into the exact same grocery store. They both need to buy the same essential item. It's a scene that plays out millions of times a day all over the world. And this is where the math just lays it all out, plain and simple. On one side, you've got the shopper with more cash. They can afford to buy in bulk, right? So they get a lower price per kilogram. But on the other side, the shopper with less money has no choice but to buy the smaller pack. And for that, they end up paying a much higher price per unit for the exact same product. Same rice, same store, totally different price. And yeah, there's actually a name for this whole thing. It's called the poverty premium. The best way to think about it is like a quiet, invisible tax. It's the extra cost that people are forced to pay for things they absolutely need simply because they can't afford the cheaper, more efficient options up front. Okay, so groceries are one thing, but this premium, it doesn't just pop up at the supermarket. It's actually woven into the fabric of daily life, showing up in places you might not even think about. I mean, it goes way beyond the checkout line. It hits you in these really critical areas like banking, where trying to get a loan can be insanely expensive. It affects how you get from point A to point B, and believe it or not, it even taxes the one thing we all have the same amount of, our time. So let's dig into that, starting with the crazy cost of borrowing money. Because when you desperately need cash and you don't have many options, that poverty premium can turn into a debt trap fast. Think about it for a second. If you have a good credit history, you can walk into a bank and get a loan with a low interest rate. But if you don't, you often get pushed towards payday lenders or those mobile loan apps that charge absolutely astronomical interest rates. This isn't a penalty for being bad with money. It's a penalty for having nowhere else to turn. And the result of that? Well, it's staggering. It is not uncommon for people to end up repaying 3 times what they originally borrowed. Just let that sink in. A small loan for an emergency, like a medical bill, suddenly explodes into this mountain of debt that makes it almost impossible to ever get ahead. And you see the exact same logic play out with something as basic as getting around. Someone who owns a car, their cost per trip is pretty low over the long run. But for someone who has to pay for a bus or a taxi every single day, those costs add up like crazy. Over months and years, they can end up spending way more just to get to work than the person who could afford that big upfront cost of a car. And this is where it all gets so deeply ironic, right? Society is constantly telling people to save money, to be more financially responsible, all while they're stuck in this system that is actively charging them extra for being poor at every single turn. It's a really frustrating paradox. But you have to ask, is this really just about dollars and cents? The true cost of the poverty premium, it goes so much deeper than what's in your bank account. And that brings us to the next layer of this whole story, the hidden mental toll. It's the emotional, the psychological weight that comes from constantly being penalized just because of your financial situation. I mean, when your entire life is spent overpaying just to survive, your brain is always in crisis mode. It becomes almost impossible to plan for the future when all your energy is just focused on getting through today. And that constant strain, that's not something that just affects one person. It's a heavy burden that can get passed down from one generation to the next. Okay, so knowing all of this, it's a heavy topic. The big question is, what do you do about it? How do you even start to fight back? Let's talk about breaking the cycle. The way forward, it really starts with one single powerful tool: awareness. Just understanding that this poverty premium is a real thing and seeing it for what it is. That is the most crucial first step. It shifts your whole mindset from feeling helpless to actively looking for a way to fight back. And once you have that awareness, a path starts to open up. Step 1, you see the system for what it is. Step 2, you start to build a strategy, focusing on the small things you can actually control. And step 3, You use discipline to break just one of those expensive cycles at a time. This isn't about some magical overnight fix. It's about making one smart move and then another one after that. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important idea here. The world might charge you more when you have less. That's a fact. But the tools you need to rewrite your financial story, the knowledge to see the system, the strategy to navigate it, and the discipline to follow your plan, guess what? Those are free. And with them, anyone can start to build a different future.